What if the best advice for getting into college wasn't about grades or test scores at all? Today's journey might just change how you think about the entire process. In this episode, you're going to meet Dawson. He's a Brown University student who's here to drop some gems about the whole college application process and beyond. Dawson talks openly about choosing a college that supports you, the importance of planning ahead, and why you shouldn't be afraid to shoot high, even though those around you may want you to play it safe. Let's dive into the video. All right, well, welcome, Dawson. I appreciate you coming on and joining us and telling us a little bit about what you experienced as you went through the entire high school to college experience, because now you're a successful college student at Brown University. So glad to have you on. We're going to start off by talking about your high school journey. Just when you started high school, the type of classes that you took. So did you actually take like AP classes, or did you do dual enrollment or anything like that?
Yeah, so at my high school, the way it works is that freshman year we're not allowed to take any AP classes, but for sophomore year, for junior year, for senior year, I tried to take at least three per year. So
Okay.
I tried to give myself the most rigorous curriculum possible to prepare for college.
Okay. So then in high school, were you knew for a fact that you were going to go to college? That wasn't like a, let me see if I want to, or you knew for a
Yeah,
fact
I,
that
I knew for a fact I was going to go to college.
that
Yes,
was the plan. So when you were planning out your schedule and everything like that, was it a strategy from day one?
I I wouldn't say it's a strategy that I had everything planned out. Like
Mhm.
obviously, sometimes like some things I had to like kind of grab opportunities as they came. Right, not everything is fully plannable. But overall, like the overall goal of what I did was very intentional. I every single thing I did try to do was to get to a college. So in that sense, like yes, I did plan out my high school, but at the same time, I wouldn't say like everything was fully laid out before me. I didn't go into high school with knowing exactly what I would want to get out of it, what my interests were. I had to explore. I had to take the first 2 years to explore that. Absolutely.
Okay, all right, good deal. And then what about your extracurriculars in high school? What kind of things did you do for just, on the side or just to have fun?
Absolutely. So I think I'll talk about three of my most the extracurriculars that meant the most to me.
Hmm.
The first is probably the research I did in high school. And I think a lot of high school students don't know this, that they can do research. They can, if they're very passionate about a particular topic, they can go and find things that they want to discover by themselves. There's plenty of mentors out there. There's plenty of good programs for students to get involved. And a lot of the times, the ones that are free cost are the most good ones, where you get the most stuff done. It's the most productive. So having
Hmm.
said that, I in the summer of junior year, I did a very interesting research project at New York Presbyterian Hospital on biomedical informatics. And in that particular program, I came up with the unit rate conversion algorithm to help the research team there, the chief safety research team, um, understand how medication ordering errors occur in the electronic health record. So what that really did for me is that, first of all, it gave me a renewed interest in computer science, in kind of this biomedical paradigm that I kind of want to explore more in college, because I am a pre-med. Obviously, like a lot of people want to be a doctor, but my personal goal after coming out of that and after seeing all of the wonderful stuff that those research teams there do, they also happen to look at patients too, is that I want to kind of contribute like a bigger goal in fixing the country's like ecosystem of data, right? Because
Hmm.
clinical data nowadays is very important. Everybody talks about it, so that kind of gave me like a purpose in what I wanted to do in college. If that makes sense. The second thing I think that was most meaningful to me was riding at my town's local ambulance corps, Tuxedo Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I think before I did that, I was, to be honest, kind of like a geeky, nerdy kid. I was kind of a dull kid before.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't really have like a social life before doing that, and the fact that I was able to go to the ambulance corps, spend a lot of time riding with those first responders, and they obviously have a lot of personal struggles, but they're very good people. They have a lot of courage. I think that really um, also allowed me to see the community in a way that I hadn't seen it before, right? Because you see people on their worst days, you see a lot of like really gory stuff, but in all honesty, like it gave me like a desire to know the community better, to help the community, right, and to really get in touch with it in a way that I wasn't really able to before. the last thing I think is golf team, right? So like I said before, I did a lot of AP classes. My head was stuck in books maybe about 50% of the time I was in high school. But joining the golf team, I first of all I had some time to go outside and play some golf, which is always nice. Spend some time in nature. You always need that after being absorbed in books all
Right.
day. But also the more important thing to me was that I had a couple of very, I think, productive conversations with my captains, about like team, what it means to be a team, right? When you think of golf, you usually think of it as a very individual sport. But the truth is, like, my captain for a golf team, he was a real leader. Like, he really saw everybody as having a part to play in the golf team. Everybody's score mattered. At the end of the day, one person's failure is a failure in the whole team. And that really gave me, like, I think, a bit of understanding of how to work together as a group, right? Like, it gave me a way to connect with other kids in which books and classes wouldn't have been able to. And that was really, really enlightening for me as well, right? It was a way for me to get more in touch with my teammates in a very, very like familial, I guess almost tribal sense, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of like the three most important high school experiences that led to my character development.
Okay. Well, now you mentioned some really extraordinary experiences that you did for extracurriculars, and you mentioned that a lot of students may not know about that. How did you find out about the types of experiences and extracurriculars that you could do outside of like school, like with the both the research and then the annex core?
Yes. So I didn't hear. I think you cut out for a moment. Can I just hear the first part of your question?
Yeah, I was trying to find out, how did you find out about those experiences? Because you mentioned a lot of students don't know. So how would students go about trying to find out more about those things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, the best way to do it is to probably look at your school. If your school has any counseling services, they have like career fairs from time to time, and I think a lot of these programs they print up brochures during like those career fairs. So obviously, you want to keep your eyes open to those sessions where you can maybe find out about this stuff. The other thing is, like, if you're interested in something, you can always go online and do a Google search. That's kind of what I did. I went online and looked at like Columbia DBMI, the Columbia University's homepage, and I found they had a really nice free program, which was all costs included. It's a commuter program, obviously. So you have to kind of know like if the region you live in is appropriate for that particular program. But there's plenty of like virtual programs out there, plenty of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you just kind of have to look into it a bit. Make like a folder, like in your Google Drive or whatever you use to stay organized. Like have like a list of applications you want to do for that particular year, and just kind of like stay organized in that way, and then you can find opportunities that come your way. I think I was like in college too. It actually worked better for me in college because my high school didn't really have as much of this, but in college there's a lot of these pre-professional like subscriber like society they have these like they have these pre-health advising society emails and things like that, like these email chains and listservs that you can join, and every week they kind of send you an email, and that email has like a bunch of opportunities for you. So basically, you can just go on there and find as many opportunities. That's actually how I'm going to find an opportunity for this summer. I went on there and I found a really nice internship at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, and I'm going to go and do that. So like always, just keep your eye out for these kinds of opportunities. They come. You just have to look for them. That's
Gotcha.
that's the advice I would give.
Okay, that's amazing. So let's kind of fast forward then to preparing for college. So junior year, I'm sure that was like busy for you, thinking about like what you're going to do. Did you start the college application? Well, first of all, which application did you use? Did you use the Common App to apply?
Yes, I used the Common App, and it was mandated at my school. So luckily, it was pretty standardized for everyone.
Okay, all right, good deal. And so when you did that, were the counselors helping you, like your guidance counselors, or was this something you were going to have to kind of seek out on your own and figure out how to do?
I mean, I think the counselors provided enough help to get the Common App system set up.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, though, that's really all they did. Everything else you kind of have to do on your own. Like for essays and things like that, I asked my English teachers, I asked friends to look at my essays for me and see if it really sounded like me. I think the biggest tip I have for like junior year, really all of high school, is that you want to plan ahead, right? You want to front load. That's what the lead counselor at my school used. That's the very word she used, front load. The earlier you do everything, the better. So you don't have to panic and do everything at the very last moment. The SAT, the ACT, I tried to get that out at the very beginning of junior year. college essays, everything. I did that in the summer, well before senior year happened. And I can't tell you, like, there's a lot of kids who have like very, very many college applications, which is fine. But the problem is they wait for their EDs to come out and then they do all the college essays. It's actually a surprisingly common story. It's a lot more common than you think. And I think that that is not a recipe for success, right? You want to always plan for the worst. You always want to do everything that you can control as quickly and as a priority basis as possible, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, that's really good advice. So, as you were preparing, did you already have a list of colleges in mind that you were thinking about applying to?
Yes, I had a spreadsheet of colleges I was thinking of applying to. It changed as time went on. It changed as my confidence varied, obviously. But at the end of the day, like, you do want to have like a pretty set list of what colleges you want to apply to, like, by the middle of, I think, your senior year at the very latest. Having said that, right, I think something that's important to know is that, like, you don't be afraid to shoot high. I think, like, I mean, something that I think my college counselors personally at my own school didn't really do so well is that they were very, very interested in getting you into a college, not necessarily the college that's right for you. So some advice I would give to students is that, you should be more confident in yourselves. Like, don't be afraid to shoot high. Like, if you don't, like, it's okay. You're going to be able to go somewhere. You're going to have a life that's somewhere in the future. But because it's such a critical time in your life, right? Make it about you. It's for you, right? You want to do what you want to do, not what somebody else wants to do, not what your parents want to do. It's about you. So take control of your own life in that way and own it. That's what I would say.
So when you put your college list together, was there like a certain thing you were looking for? Did you already know, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm choosing this college because it has this particular factor? Were there different factors that were very important to you as you built that list?
I think for me, the most important factor was the presence of good research, right? So again, like, going back to what I said earlier, like, a lot of my family friends and, like, adults in my family, my parents' friends, they all wanted me to apply to liberal arts colleges. I wasn't really too interested in that because I wanted to be able to do research in college, right? And liberal arts colleges, they don't usually have opportunities for that. Apart from that, obviously, like, I think it goes without saying that prestige is important for many people nowadays in the college process. But again, like, I think the biggest reason why I chose Brown was because they had an open curriculum, right? I know everybody says that, but it really makes a difference because if I want to be a doctor, right, I want to take courses that that allow me to be knowledgeable about being a doctor, right? So this first semester, I took a course on public health in the United States and learned about many of the latent issues that Americans face in paying for healthcare, right? Like the financing of healthcare, the imbalance between specialty care and primary care. I feel like that's very, very practical knowledge, right? The problem with some colleges is that they have very extreme core curriculum requirements, right? And the problem with that is that these core curriculum requirements, like, they have educational value, obviously, and it's a very liberal education. Like, there's value in that, but also, like, it's not particularly practical for your career, right? Like, obviously, like, a course on health policy, in my view, is going to be more important for a doctor to know than a course on Greco-Roman literature, right? Like, you see, like, there's clear practical benefits to some to some of the curriculums that certain schools offer over other schools. And to contrast my own school, which is Brown University, to other universities, I think that really shines out in that regard.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, let's move to, like, your letters of recommendation. That's one of the things that you had to have. How did you choose the folks that filled out your letters of recommendation, and who did you choose? Like, I mean, what subject matters, or was it your extracurriculars, or what did you decide to choose? Hey there. I hope you're getting some great insight from this student's journey to college. I want to jump in really quickly and tell you about our student roadmap audit. Now, if you're trying to figure out whether your classes, activities, and even your schedule are setting you up to be a strong applicant for the colleges you're aiming for, then I want to encourage you to check out our student roadmap audit to see where you stand. Now, our audit is personalized to help you understand exactly where you are and what steps you need to take to strengthen your path. We even give you some strategies to stay on track. So there's basically no more second guessing or hoping once the college application time rolls around. If this sounds helpful, head over to getinwithcoachcarol.com/audit to sign up. Now, let's get back to the video.
Absolutely. So in terms of my recommendation letters for school, I tried to have have a diversity of subjects, right? I wanted people to know that I had interests in different subjects. I wasn't just a STEM kid. So for for the for the for the teachers in my high school, the two recommendations I chose was one for statistics, my statistics teacher, my AP Stats teacher, and the other was my history teacher. And now I will say, I happen to know my history teacher very, very well. I sweated a lot in his class, and I worked very hard in his class. Sweated is like the lingo for for kids nowadays in this day and age. And he really liked me, and he actually like offered me to write my letter rec for me. So one piece of advice I have for kids who are going through a process is that if a teacher recommends or volunteers to write your letter for you, I think it's a very good idea for you to accept that, because that means that they're probably going to write something very, very good about you.
Okay.
And especially if it's in like a subject that you don't usually consider yourself interested in, right? Like, so like for me, like I wouldn't say history is my most favorite class, but it was but his teaching was so good that I just had a lot of fun in it. I enjoyed his class a lot. So I think you really want to like take those opportunities as they come, right? And obviously, like you can read the room with lots of teachers. Like some teachers, they are pretty stoic in personality. Others are very like flowery and like they give praise easily, and they're very warm and fuzzy. Like I mean, if you were to read the room, I think you would choose the second teacher, right? Because
Right.
they're warm and fuzzy. They're probably going to say very good things about you in your letter compared to like the more stoic teacher. So I think like reading people that way kind of gives you a edge in choosing who to write your recommendation letter.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Kind of looking at them to see how they communicate on a normal basis. It's probably how they'll communicate in writing. Did you give them any information about you, any like additional things, or was it strictly off of what they knew with their experiences with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of teachers will ask you to send like your resume and your essays and things like that. Like don't be afraid they ask to do that. Like that's just because they want to get to know you better, and they want to get to know like what strong suits you have, and what they want to know you as a character. Another thing that a lot of schools do, I think, if I remember correctly, is that they have like this special form that students fill out. And in that form, like the students kind of talk about their interests, their past accomplishments, things like that, and that will help out teachers a lot too. You definitely don't want to discount that. Like filling out that form is going to be a lot of help for your teachers in writing the best recommendation letter for you and putting their best foot in advocating for you.
Okay. All right. Well, good. That's really good information and good advice. So it is what? It's April 5th as we record this, and a lot of people have already received their acceptance letters or wait list, or some people, may have gotten a decline. So let's go back to, I guess this is a year ago for you that you dealt with this because you're a freshman, right?
Yes, I'm a freshman.
So you applied to how many colleges?
I applied to about 15 colleges.
15 colleges. And then did you come down to like 3 or 4 that you really like when you start getting acceptances? Did you have a choice of schools to choose from?
Actually, no. I happened to get in ED, so I don't really have
Okay.
that experience of like choosing between colleges and like think about which one's the best to choose. I was already pretty set on this
On
particular
Brown.
university, Brown University,
Okay.
being my
Well,
college.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about ED and making that decision to apply ED. You knew that once you were accepted ED, you had to get rid of all the rest of them. So Brown, I assume, was your top choice.
Yes, Brown was my top choice. That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What was your
Yeah.
second choice, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, you can only ED to one, so
No, I
I
mean, as far as your list of colleges, like you thought, okay, if I don't get in ED, then
yeah. So my second, okay, so in that case, like my second one would probably have been Johns Hopkins, because they
okay.
have a really good biomedical program. But obviously,
Yeah.
like the problem with Johns Hopkins in my mind is like kids who go there, I feel like they really don't have a life. Like obviously you want to study and you want to do well in college and you want to like do lots of good classes, but at the same time like like you want to kind of enjoy your life a bit, right? It's a new experience, new flavor. You want to meet new people, you want to make connections. That's a very important part of college. So like
Right.
those two are very highly ranked on my personal list, but
Mhm.
at the end like Brown evened out a bit.
Okay. All right. Well, then now that's a perfect segue to let's talk about your why Brown experience. So a lot of people get this question when they're filling out their applications, and of course, students run to the website, go to the social media pages, trying to really understand. Some people have been fortunate enough to actually visit the Brown campus beforehand. So, what have you learned since you've been there that like you could share with someone that like what's your why as far as Brown University, especially having been there now for almost a year?
Yeah, let me think about that. There's a lot I could talk about there.
Well, talk about more than one because I'm sure
Yeah,
people will probably grasp some information from that.
I think to be honest, like I'm gonna 100% advertise for Brown in this
Okay.
particular when I say this.
As you
Um,
should.
it was a great break from my high school experience. I think in high school, the problem with my high school is that there were a lot of kids who were very very competitive and wanted to do well and get into good colleges. That's obviously great, right? Like we want everybody to do what they think their life is worth for. But the only problem is that like that results in a lot of toxic behavior, right? Like, I walked to school every day. I was sitting in advisory. Like people around me were always stressed, always chronically unhappy. Like you just feel like this very negative energy coming out of people, right? And then like when somebody got into one particular school and the other person didn't, like that there'd be like a feud between those two
Um,
people, which was when in fact they were probably once friends, like before the college process kind of happened onto them. Now, obviously, like I think at Brown, like it kind of hits different because kids at Brown have a very, very positive attitude. Like they're very hardworking, but they're very relaxed at the same time. And me being like a person with a lot of OCD, like I used to be like I used to freak out over the smallest things too, not really missing the bigger picture of life, right? Like I saw that, and it really inspired me because it made me realize that you can be hardworking, but you can be a chill person too. Like you can be positive, upgoing, upbeat. My professor, who I'm doing research with on disparities in mammography right now, she told me she comes from UPenn. She's a very famous biostatistician. She said that the biggest difference between a school like Brown and some of the other like very prestigious schools is that at other schools like lab mentors they try to rip each other off. They try to like if I get the funding, the mentality at like schools at some other schools, maybe not UPenn. Like I'm not I don't mean to make an example of any other school. The mentality at many places is that if I get the funding, then I want to get the funding at your expense, right? Like
mm,
it's a very zero sum game. I win, you lose. I think that the difference with Brown is that it's like a very we should succeed together, right? That's what my professor told me, and I really really agree with her. Like, why have one of us succeed when we can all succeed?
right.
So that kind of like mentality is very very good. I think it's also very very good for the world beyond college, right? Because at the end of the day, like we are not trying to be at each other's throats through all of life, right? Like
Mhm.
the people you meet in college and the people you learn to interact with are going to be your customers, are going to be your partners, are going to be your fellow entrepreneurs, right? And you want to have that collaborative energy with them starting in college and not the other way around, right? So
Right.
that's what I would say.
Okay. Well, that was a great one. So, what about the campus life at Brown? What's that like?
Campus life, yeah. So about I think about 10% of the kids here are in Greek life. That's a very very fun thing. I think like a lot of people like to go to those parties and things like that. And I think there's a lot of like great entrepreneurial opportunities too. Like people love organizing things. The two favorite clubs that I'm part of right now is probably the Brown Journal of Healthcare Advancement, where I profile companies and I write about them. I'm a lead writer. So every semester we come out with like we get in touch with a small healthcare company that's doing innovation in healthcare, and we write about the contributions that they're making to society, which I think is really great. The other thing I love a lot is the Brown Outing Club, which is the hiking club that you know arranges I think 2 to 3 hikes every month, to like some remote place in upstate New York or New England. I think that's really nice because like I think obviously Providence is a nice city. I like being in nature a lot, like it's really great for me, and having that space to walk with other people, right, and hike and have these adventures with other people, it makes me bond with them a lot. So that's what I would say.
Okay. So now let's get ready to wrap this up. You've told us a bunch of information, really great information, but what's like your best advice, like looking back, because hindsight is 2020. So looking back, like what's the advice that you would give to a high school student with regards to preparing, going through their high school journey and preparing to go to college?
Yeah, let me think of how to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, like I said earlier, like, it's very easy for well-meaning students to get trapped in this kind of like mindset of just, I'm always on the grind, right? Like I'm always focusing on academics, or I'm always just doing what I need to do to have good results to get into a good college. I think, believe it or not, like, as I guess cliche as this may sound, like you really want to discover who you are in high school, right? Um, for me, what I realized is that like the first 2 years of high school, like freshman year and sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
it's time of exploration. Don't be afraid to explore. Yeah, so don't be afraid to explore. Like, join like as many clubs as you want, and take hard classes and do what interests you. If you get a couple bad grades here and there, or if you kind of lose interest in clubs, that's fine. Like nobody's asking you to excel right away in freshman year or sophomore year. You want to explore yourself. You want to know like what makes you you, right? You want to know your own personality. You want to know like what really interests you. Now, in junior year to senior year, right, that mentality might switch a bit. Like at that
Mm-hmm.
point, like yes, you've done your exploration. Hopefully, you've done a lot of exploration, and then now like you want to start narrowing down a bit, right? Like you want to kind of really hone in on what interests you. Um, for the 10 clubs that you selected, like in the first 2 years, pick like a couple of them, pick like maybe 3 or 4, and try to get leadership in them, right? If you're part of a sport, try to get into varsity and try to do really well, excel in it. If you're doing class, if like you think your class rigor is too high for you, maybe scale back a little bit. Consider that, like you don't want your grades to slip like right at the end of senior year, right? Like that's not what any of us want. So I think like just having that kind of understanding of like when's a good time to explore, and when's a good time to kind of focus in on what really you excel at. Like that's a very powerful mindset to have as you navigate throughout high school.
Okay, well, that's good advice. I like that. I've told people that quite often, because if you start full steam ahead, you can really burn yourself out by the end of junior year, when it's really important for you to be focused on going to the next phase. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So let's do this real fun. A couple of questions for you, just so people can get to know who Dawson is. They may see themselves in you. A couple of questions, and if they don't apply, you just say neither one or something like that. Okay, so it's kind of a this or that. So,
Alrighty.
do you prefer chips or fruit as your study snack?
Chips or fruit?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say fruit. Like fruit has some good quick sugar in it. I know like chips, like if you eat too many chips, you start feeling a little bit greasy after a while, and that kind of makes you like not really want to study.
Spoken like a true doctor.
Usually, here's the thing though. Usually, like the way I snack is like I'll study for 45 minutes and just lock the heck in, and then
Uh-huh.
maybe for 15 minutes I might go and get some fruit. I won't like study while eating. I find that like kind of disrupts my flow a bit.
Gotcha. Okay, are you a morning class person or a late night cram student?
Um, I'm a morning class person turning into a late night cram student. I have a joke with my roommate because at the very beginning of the year, right? I
Uh-huh.
was very locked in. Like I went to bed early. I tried to go to the gym in the morning, like do these things and be productive for the day. He goes to bed consistently at 3 a.m. and I'm slowly starting to become like that. So the joke between us is that like the good roommate never actually influences the bad roommate. It's always the bad roommate influencing the good roommate. So
So the
I
other piece,
say
the other
we're in
piece of
transition
advice
a
is
bit.
get a good roommate, right?
Yeah.
Get a very disciplined roommate. All right. Do you swear by a planner or sticky notes to stay organized? What's your method?
um, I am a planner turned into a Google Calendar person. I had a planner in ninth grade, 10th grade, and then I
Uh-huh.
realized that Google Calendar was a thing.
Right.
And I decided, it would be really great for me to sell my soul to these giant corporations who know every single little detail about you. So yeah, but seriously, like for a great piece of advice I have for college is like it's not going to be like I know some of these school systems that we had when in high school were very spoiled, right? Like we had like these great school customized like Blackbaud or whatever, right?
Mhm.
When you go to college, there's not going to be any standardization for you. You have to like find a way to organize yourself that works for you. And I found
Mhm.
that Google Calendar, really, really works well for that. Like I can put every single thing I need to know about my schedule on that, and then I will never mess up again, like about forgetting something or not showing up. So that's my
Good
advice.
advice. Great advice. Great advice. Okay, if your life had a soundtrack, would you wake up to some pump up music or calming beats?
Um, I think I generally like calming beats a bit, you know.
Okay.
In the morning I might listen to a little bit of like, you know, upbeat like music to maybe get myself ready for a day.
Mhm.
At night, you know, I kind of listen to more chill stuff, like, you know, like
Okay.
Travis Scott, like, you know, things like that. Like it really makes you kind of chill and get ready for bed, you know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And now, in your backpack, do you have extra chargers or more snacks?
I have extra chargers. I have I'm very paranoid about my computer running out of battery in midway through a day, so I always make sure that I prepare
Have
for
extra
that happen.
chargers.
Yeah.
And then, what's the first app you open in the morning? Social media or the Weather Channel? The Weather app.
Um, I say it's the Weather Channel because I need to know what I want to dress like for a day. It's although lamentably, like, you know, the weather this year's been pretty crazy, so even the Weather Channel doesn't really save me in predicting, you know, what I need to wear for a day. It's often freezing outside.
Gotcha. And then, lastly, are you a go with the flow kind of person or definitely a planner? I already know the answer to this.
I'm a planner.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dawson. Thank you for sharing your experience of going through high school and everything you've learned since you've been to Brown. So we appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for letting me speak today.
You take care. Thank you.
Thank you.